watch the, anyway. I believe we're on 53. 52. Sorry. What's the day? Is it Monday? Oh, no, it's Tuesday. Okay. 31st. Time. 11. Oh, I might have well just wait to 12. I don't even have a thumbnail. Let's see if I can find somebody. Let's see if I can get a quote real quick. I'm back. I had put go to sleep. So I was like, yeah. Hey, look, I was concentrating, wasn't I? I was trying to find a quote. I didn't have a quote for this one. I just went live. I'm like, where your quote? Got to be more careful. Got to be more careful. Tighten up Tuesday. I'm here for Tuesday. I don't know about you. I'm here for Tuesday. It's Tuesday over here. Oh, get out of my business. All right, come on. Let's see what's going on over here with this AI.
So much of what's happening today in the AI industry is extremely inhumane.
But this is me playing devil's advocate. And logically, it could be the case that the civilization that accelerate their research with AI is going to be the superior civilization.
No, it's not. This is a prediction that you're making, right?
Elon's making.
Hold on, give her a second. Hey, but aside, I finally caught you. 2,412,571 views. 63,000. But aside, hello, my friend. So nice of you to join us. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you for the thumbs up.
They profit enormously off of this myth. You know, I have all these internal documents showing that they're purposely trying to create that feeling within the public so that they can extract and exploit and extract and exploit.
What feeling?
So what do we do about it?
We need to break up the empires of AI. You know, I've been covering the tech industry for over 8 years. Interviewed over 250 people, including former or current OpenAI employees and executives. And I can tell you that there are many parallels between the empires of AI and the empires of tools, right? Like, lay claim to the intellectual property of artists, writers, and creators in the pursuit of training these models. Second, they exploit an extraordinary amount of labor, which breaks the career ladder because someone gets laid off and then they work to train the models on the very job that they were just laid off in, which will then perpetuate more layoffs if that model then develops that skill. And when they talk about that there's going to be some new jobs created that we can't even imagine, a lot of the jobs that are created are way worse than the jobs that were there. And then there's the environmental and public health crisis that these companies have created. And how they're able to also spend hundreds of millions to try and kill every possible piece of legislation that gets in their way and will censor researchers that are inconvenient to the empire's agenda. But what
Ooh.
I'm saying is not that these technologies don't have utility. It's that the production of these technologies right now is exacting a lot of harm on people. But we
Production.
have research that shows that the very same capabilities could be developed in a different way that doesn't have all of these unintended consequences. So let's talk about all of that.
Okay.
So you're already using ChatGPT, and well,
That's
awesome.
your intro?
There is one little problem. You're not
Oh.
making any money with it. And I'll tell you right now what you don't need. You don't need a better
Okay, well, let's
In fact, you could be the best.
just come on. That was the intro. She had a lot going on with that 2
This is
minute.
super interesting to me. My team give me this report to show me how many of you that watch this show subscribe, and some of you have told us, according to this, that you are unsubscribed from the channel randomly.
It happens to me all the time. And this is Diary of a CEO. Let's check and see how many subscribers he got. Why are you complaining about losing subscribers at 15 million? Is that 500? 50, 500. That might be 500. 15 million, 500 subscribers. Why would you be complaining about losing subscribers at 15 million subscribers? And I'm over here trying to hit 500. What? Please check and see if you are still subscribed. Please. Please.
To ask all of you, please could you check right now if you've hit the subscribe button? If you
Check and see if you hit the subscribe. Just check and see, because he said it's a common thing now. I'm trying to hit 500. He over here 15 million. Why would he be worried about whether... Let me just let him finish.
regular viewer of the show and you like what we do here, we're approaching
I
quite a
just-
significant
I subscribe.
landmark on this show in terms of a subscriber
Landmark.
number. So if there was one simple free thing that you could do to help us, my team, everyone here, to keep this show free, to keep it improving year over year and week over week, it is just to hit that subscribe button and to double check it.
Can you double check and see if you subscribe? Did you have breakfast? I ain't had it yet. Not yet. Check and see if you subscribe. I didn't know it was like a common thing. You had to, hey, make sure you subscribe, because they be unsubscribing people. You work so hard to get them little 5 subscribers, and then you wake up and 8 gone. You're like, whoa.
Hit it. Only thing I'll ever ask of you.
That's the only thing I'm ever asked, is to make sure you hit the subscribe and the like, because I see 1. Thank you. I know that's Prasad. I know Prasad, he hit the thumbs up.
If you do it, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make sure every single week, every single month,
Thank you,
we fight harder and
Flaming.
harder and harder to bring you the guests and conversations.
Thank you,
that like here.
Flaming.
I've stayed true to that promise since the very beginning of the diary.
Thank you, Flaming. You subscribe? Okay, we'll
Appreciate
see.
it. Let's get on with the show.
We'll see. I'm gonna check.
How? You've written this book in front of me here called Empire of AI.
Empire of AI. I put that on the book list. Let me put that on my book club list. Let me put that on my book club list. Because Candace just gave one. I'm just going to have to make a list called book club list. I have a book club list. Empire of AI. I had to make sure I remember the name of it. Cut the brightness up, man. I can't see. Empire of AI. And what's her name again? Oh, she's talking about Sam Altman. Okay. Oh, Karen Howell. She should be talking about Suchir. You need to be talking about Suchir. Suchir. Okay. I had to make sure I took my little notes. I could have typed it on my computer. I don't know why I didn't do that. So, caught up on my
And
phone.
nightmares in Sam Altman's OpenAI. I guess my first question is,
I do that
what
all
is
the time.
research
What
and the
is all
journey you
that?
went on in order to write this book we're going to talk about and the subjects within it today?
I took a strange route into journalism. I studied mechanical engineering at MIT.
Ooh.
And so
Ooh.
when I graduated, I moved to San Francisco.
MIT.
I joined a tech startup. I became part of Silicon Valley.
Ooh.
And I basically received an education in what Silicon Valley is about because a few months into joining a very mission-driven startup that was focused on building technologies that would help facilitate the fight against climate change, the board fired the CEO because the company was not profitable. And this was, in hindsight, a very pivotal moment for me because I thought if this hub is ultimately geared towards building profitable technologies, and many of the problems in the world that I think need solved are not profitable problems like climate change, then what are we actually doing here? Like how did we get to a point where innovation is not actually necessarily working in the public benefit and sometimes even undermining the public benefit in pursuit of profit? In that moment, I had a bit of a crisis.
I'm trying to figure out what was a small act of kindness. Ooh, I do it so much. I don't like. I come on YouTube and I live stream. That's always a very small act of kindness that I do whenever I can. I share my time and my energy and my light bill with going live on YouTube. It's a very small. Please, ma'am, you're caught up in here somewhere. It's always a very small act of kindness that I do. Every chance I get, I log in on YouTube and I go live. Yeah! And I share my Georgia power bill with you. Because somebody got to keep these lights on.
Well, I just spent 4 years trying to set myself up for this career that I now don't think I am cut out for. And I thought, well, I might as well just try something totally different. I've always liked.
I'm gonna have to speed her up because this is 2 hours. Okay, so I'm gonna hold on. Let me just speed her up just a little bit. Let me see what that 1.5 talking about.
Writing. And that's how after 2 years, I landed at
Yeah.
a role at MIT Technology Review covering AI full time. And
Okay.
that gave me a space to then explore all of these questions of who gets to decide what technologies we build, how does money and ideology also drive the production of those technologies.
Hold on. You know, just let me a little bit.
And how do we ultimately make sure that we actually reimagine the innovation ecosystem to work for a broad base of people all around the world? And so that is kind of how I then set off on this journey of ultimately writing a book. I didn't realize that I was working towards writing a book,
Okay.
but starting in 2018 when I took that job was essentially the moment in which I began researching the story that I document in it.
Okay. Well, God.
If you're a family,
I guess I needed a break because I was like, okay, so, okay. MIT, mechanical engineering, and then Silicon Valley, and some startup AI company, and then, you know, you get in there and you're like, ooh, that's how Suchir was. Suchir was like, there's a lot of copyright infringement going on over here. And then, what they say? He shot himself in the head twice.
Very timely time to start working in artificial intelligence. For anyone that doesn't know, this is pre-OpenAI ChatGPT launch moment that shook the world. But in writing this book, you interviewed a lot of people and went to a lot of places. Can you give me a flavour of how many people you've interviewed, where it's taken you around the world, etc.?
I interviewed over 250 people, so over 300 interviews. Over 90 of those people were former or current OpenAI employees and executives. So the book covers the inside story of OpenAI's first decade and how it ultimately...
Give me a second. Let me check it out. Let me see where I can find it at real quick. What was it again? Empire AI. Let me see if I can find it. That's her. Karen Howell. Okay. Let me see if she got the book on. Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want to be trying to figure out where it's at. Okay. Barnes and Noble. I don't really do Barnes and Noble. Should I do the ebook? Cause then I could just. I don't know. I'm a big book fan. I like. Let me just see. Let me see. Um, let's just go up here real quick. Let me see. I need to go over there to Thrift Books. Thrift Books may have it. $20. It's only a dub. Do you have? Where is Apple Pay? Because if we can Apple Pay, that just get you in and out, in and out, in and out. Amazon, Target, Walmart. Who is this trying to sign in? Oh, Penguin. Let me go to Thrift Books real quick. But Thrift Books may have it. Don't start spamming my chat with that. Because my peripheral. Every time it pop up, I be thinking that it's somebody in the chat. I'm like, don't start. I'm gonna cut the chat off. I just want to see if AI okay, 23, not bad. Cause I might get free shipping with Dreams and Nightmares and Sam Altman's. Why you had to put Sam in it? Is his name? Is his name on the book? Is she trying to get clout, or is she? Why would she put Sam in the? Okay. Thrift Books got it. So that's good. They do take a minute to ship, not all the time. I'm just trying to figure out the ebook might be cheaper. Who is this? Amazon. I don't do that Kindle. It's $18 for the hard copy, but then you got to pay $6.99 for the shipping. Cause I don't Amazon. She got no more bestseller. 1,602. Let me see the reviews real quick. I'm finna go to her. I gotta see who I'm talking about. Wanna dish some gossip? Then this book by Karen Howe is for you. It's an excellent read, though it clearly has an agenda and strays from impartiality at times. Okay. That's not meant as a nod. Okay, Howe gives a deeper look into OpenAI's inner workings than any other book I've read. She has serious domain knowledge and sharp journalistic skills, honed over years reporting for the Washington, is that Washington? And other top outlets. Is that Washington? I think that's Washington. Okay. The book made a splash because Howe was the first to piece together an accurate timeline of the attempted ouster of Sam Altman from OpenAI. That was a wild ride, okay? She also covers the effective altruism. EA Engelwell. I'll write more about this in another post. The more I learn about EA and its cousin, effective accelerationism, what? The more uneasy I am about the world the world we're building. And yes, I'm a technologist helping build it, okay? The book is opinionated. Howe is not a fan of Altman, period. She even devotes arguably too much time to Sam Altman's sister. Those chapters. Yes. Hi. We all do. How are you? Hello. I like that YouTube. I wonder how you got that on there. The YouTube square. How did you get? Okay. Digital colonialism of the global south is one of the few AI books to give this real coverage, and it's illuminating, but the facts and figures aren't always as well sourced as I like, and they do carry a wealth of agenda-driven reporting. Okay, I recommend this book, but no, it's not fully impartial. For a more balanced take, start with Supremacy, AI, ChatGPT, and the race will change the world by. Oh, okay. You know, we're gonna have to. Just give me a second. He gave me another one. The answer the book club. Let me look it up. What I said, book club list. Um, you know, we're gonna have to get book club list. Okay, because I got a hashtag book club, and then I got a hashtag book club list. That OpenAI is, I'm gonna take my time with it, obviously. Remember, I just had a Popeye's chicken sandwich today. Technically yesterday, because it was Monday, but that was my first time having it. That that was my first time having the Popeye's chicken sandwich. So I'm definitely not in any rush, but it's something going on with this AI thing. Who is Parmy Olsen? Okay. I just, you know, I just wanted to see who I was working with. I don't mind, deviating. Go ahead, Karen.
To where it is today.
You know,
But
damn well her name ain't really Karen, but go ahead.
Want to write a corporate book, I felt very strongly that in order to help people understand the impact of the AI industry, we would
Right.
also have to travel well beyond Silicon Valley. These companies
Oh.
tell us that AI is going to benefit everyone, and that's their mission.
Right.
But you really start to see that rhetoric break down when you go to the places that look nothing like Silicon Valley, that speak nothing like Silicon Valley, and that have a history and culture that are fundamentally different as well. And
Ooh.
that's where you start to really understand the true reality of
Ooh.
how this industry is unfolding around us.
Ooh,
Karen, I often try and steer conversations, but in this situation, I feel like it's probably my responsibility to follow.
exactly.
So with that in mind, I'm going to ask you, where does this journey begin and where should we be starting?
Exactly.
About the subjects of
Right.
empire of AI generally, artificial
Right.
intelligence.
Right.
And also I'd say, one thing I'm really keen to do in this conversation, which is I often see in conversations is left out, is let's assume that our viewers know nothing about AI.
Yeah.
Right.
So they don't know what scaling laws are or GPUs or compute or whatever.
Right.
And let's try and keep this as simple as we possibly can in terms of language.
Okay.
Or explain all the complicated language so that we can bring as much people with us as we possibly can.
Yes.
We could do
Where should we
both.
start?
I think we should start with when AI started as a field.
Okay.
So this was back in 1956.
Hi. Nania? Nah. No, wait. Hold on. Naya? I don't know. I can give it like 2 tries and then I'll be like,
And there were a group of scientists that gathered at Dartmouth University to start a new discipline, a scientific discipline, to try and chase an ambition. And
scientific discipline. What's going on?
specifically, an assistant professor at Dartmouth University, John McCarthy, decided to name this discipline artificial intelligence.
Oh,
This was not the first name that he tried. The previous year, he tried to name it automata studies. And the reason why some of his colleagues were concerned about this name was because it pegged the idea of this discipline to recreating human intelligence. And back then, as is true today, we have no scientific consensus around what human intelligence is. There's no definition from psychology, biology, neurology, and in fact, every attempt in history to quantify and rank human intelligence has been driven by nefarious motives. It's been driven by a desire to prove scientifically that certain groups of people are inferior to other groups of people.
I wonder which group of people that is.
There are no goalposts for this field, and there are no goalposts for the industry when they say that they are ultimately trying to recreate AI systems that would be as smart as humans.
Okay.
How do we even define what that means? And
Right.
when are we going to get there if we don't know how to define the destination?
Mm.
And what that effectively means is that these companies can just use the term artificial general intelligence, which is now the term to refer to this ambitious goal to recreate human intelligence. They can use it however they want to, and they can define and redefine it based on what is convenient for them. So in OpenAI's history, it has defined and redefined it many times. When Sam Altman is talking with Congress, AGI is a system that's going to cure cancer, solve climate change, cure poverty. When he's talking with consumers that he's trying to sell his products to, it's the most amazing digital assistant that you're ever going to have. When he was talking with Microsoft, in the deal that OpenAI and Microsoft struck, where invested in the company, it was defined as a system that will generate $100 billion of revenue. And on OpenAI's own website, they define it as highly autonomous systems that outperform humans in most economically valuable work. This is like not a coherent vision of one technology. These are very different definitions that are spoken out loud to the audience that needs to be mobilized to ward off regulation or get more consumer buy-in into the industry's quest, or to get more capital, more resources for continuing on this journey with ambiguous definitions.
Speaking about different definitions through time, in 2015, in a blog post that Sam Altman wrote before OpenAI was officially announced, he explicitly outlined the existential risk by saying, development of superhuman machine intelligence is probably the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity. There are other threats that I think are more certain to happen, for example, an engineered virus, but AI is probably the most likely way to destroy everything.
Right now, as you watch this, your brain is being hijacked. You think you're in control. But there's a backdoor to your mind that 99...
In general, when Altman is writing for the public or speaking for the public,
Tabitha,
he does not just have the
hello.
public as the audience in mind. There are other people that he is trying to motivate or mobilize
For sure.
when he says these things. And in that particular moment, Altman was trying to convince Elon Musk to join him on co-founding OpenAI. And Musk, in particular, was spending all of his time sounding the alarm on what he saw as a huge existential threat that AI could pose. And so in that blog post, if you look at the language that Altman uses side by side with the language that Musk was using at the time, it mirrors all the things that Musk is saying.
Identical.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, Musk was going on podcasts saying, tweeting, whatever, that the greatest existential risk to humanity was AI.
I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. Mr. Musk cites his decision to invest in the artificial intelligence firm DeepMind as a means to, quote, just keep my eye on what's going on with artificial intelligence. I think there is potentially a dangerous outcome there.
And so, you know, like his parenthetical, there are other things that might actually be more likely to happen, like engineered viruses. It's because up until then, Altman had been talking just about engineered viruses. And so now that he needs to pivot to speak to an audience of one, to Musk, he needs to kind of resolve the contradiction between what he's now elevating as his new central fear to be the same as Musk's new central fear with what he had previously been saying. So that's why he's like, I think this is now, even though before I said this.
And are you saying that Sam Altman manipulated Musk? Because Elon did end up donating a huge amount of money to OpenAI and co-founding it, I believe, with Sam Altman.
Elon Musk did end up co-founding it with Altman. And certainly from Musk's perspective, he does feel manipulated because he feels like Altman was engineering his language in a way that would make Musk trust him as a partner in this endeavor. And of course, then Musk leaves, and through some of the documents that came out during the lawsuit that Musk and Altman are engaged in now, it has become clear that there was a degree to which Musk was actually muscled out a little bit. And so that's why he's left with this very intense personal vendetta against Altman, saying that somehow Altman tricked him into being part of this.
So in 2015, Sam Altman is writing these blog posts saying this is one of the greatest existential threats. At the same time, in 2015, Musk is doing some very famous speeches at the time at MIT. He said that AI was the biggest existential threat and compared developing AI to summoning the demon. And what you're saying here is you're saying that Sam Altman was just mirroring the language that Elon was using to get Elon involved in OpenAI. And later it appears, and again there's a legal case taking place now, that Sam might have muscled Elon out in some capacity.
Yeah, so we know from the lawsuit and the documents that have come out in the lawsuit that Ilya Sutskever, who was the chief scientist of OpenAI at the time, and Greg Brockman, chief technology officer at the time, when they were deciding whether or not to maintain OpenAI as a nonprofit, because it was originally founded as a nonprofit, they decided, okay, we need to create a for-profit entity. But the question was, who should be the CEO of this for-profit entity? Should it be Musk or should it be Altman? Because they were the two co-chairmen of the nonprofit. And in the emails, it became clear that Ilya and Greg first chose Musk to be the CEO. But through my reporting, I discovered that Altman then appealed personally to Greg Brockman, who was a friend of his that they'd known each other for many years through Silicon Valley scene, and said, don't you think that it would be a little bit dangerous to have Musk be the CEO of this company, this new for-profit entity? Because, he's a famous guy. He has a lot of pressures in the world. He could be threatened. He could act erratically. He could be unpredictable. And do we really want a technology that could be super powerful in the future to end up in the hands of this man? And that convinced Greg. And Greg then convinced Ilya. I think there's a point here. Do we really want to give this much power to Musk? And that is why Musk then leaves, because then the two switch their allegiances. They say, actually, we want Altman to be the CEO, and then Musk is like, if I'm not CEO, I'm out.
Oh,
So it sounds like Sam again managed to persuade someone to do something.
again.
I guess this begs the question: what do you think of Sam Altman?
I think he's a very controversial figure.
You did an interesting pause. It's a pause where someone tries to select their words.
Well,
Very
this is-
carefully.
This is what's so interesting about those interviews is people are extremely polarized on Altman. No one has in-between feelings about him. Either they think he's the greatest tech leader of this generation, akin to Steve Jobs of the modern era, or they think that he's really manipulative and an abuser and a liar. And what I realized, because I interviewed so many people, is it really comes down to what that person's vision of the future is and what their goals are. So if you align with Altman's vision of the future, you're going to think he's the greatest asset ever to have on your
Sure.
side, because this man is really persuasive. He's incredible at telling stories. He's incredible at mobilizing capital, at recruiting talent, at getting all of the inputs that you need to then make that future happen. But if you don't agree with his vision of the future, then you begin to feel like you're being manipulated by him to support his vision, even if you fundamentally don't agree with it. And this is the story, especially of Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, who was originally an executive at OpenAI.
So for people that don't,
Amodei. Who is Amodei? That last name sounds familiar. Amodei. Amodei.
Dario now runs Anthropic, which is the maker of Claude. A lot of people probably are more familiar with Claude.
Yeah, and it's one of the biggest competitors to OpenAI.
Okay.
And
Claude.
Amodei, at the time when he was an executive at OpenAI,
Okay.
he thought that Altman was on the same page with him.
Okay.
And then over time began to feel that Altman was actually on exactly the opposite page of him, and felt that Altman had used Amodei's intelligence, capabilities, skills to build things and bring about a vision of the future that he actually fundamentally didn't agree with. And so that's why people end up with this bad taste in their mouths. And so, I've been covering the tech industry for over 8 years and covered many companies. I've covered Meta, Google, Microsoft, in addition to OpenAI. And OpenAI and Altman it's the only figure that I've seen this degree of polarization with, where people cannot decide whether he's the greatest or the worst.
You mentioned
You can try my team completely for free for 7 days. And if you don't like them, you literally don't pay anything. We are the only marketing company that will share.
Dario there, and what I found really interesting is to look at how people's quotes evolve over time with their incentives. So I was looking at all of the things they've said on the record, on podcasts, in their blog posts, to see how it's evolved over time. Dario, who is the former VP of Research of OpenAI and has now moved on to Anthropic, who are taking a slightly different approach to developing AI, said back in 2017, while he was still at OpenAI, that, this is a quote, "I think at the extreme end is the Nick Bostrom style of fear that an AGI can destroy humanity. I can't see any reason in principle why that can happen. My chance that something goes really quite catastrophically wrong on the scale of human civilization might be somewhere between 10% and 25%. And also you mentioned Ilya, who was a co-founder of OpenAI and then left. I guess the first question I'd ask is, why did Ilya leave?
It's a great question. So he was instrumental in trying to get Sam Altman fired, and he's another one of the people who over time began to feel like he was being manipulated by Altman towards contributing something that he didn't believe in. And for
How'd you know?
because I interviewed a lot of people, Ilya in particular had two pillars that he cared about deeply. One is making sure we get to so-called AGI, and the other is making sure that we get to it safely. And he felt that Altman was actively undermining both things. He felt that Altman was creating a very chaotic environment within the company, where he was pitting teams against each other, where he was telling different things to different people.
Have you ever spoken to him?
I have so I interviewed him in 2019 for a profile that I did of OpenAI for MIT Technology Review.
And back in 2019, he has a quote where he says, "The future's going to be good for AIs regardless. It would be nice if it was also good for humans as well. It's not that it's going to actively hate humans or want to harm them, but it's just going to be so powerful. And I think a good analogy would be the way that humans treat animals. It's not that we hate animals. I think humans love animals, and I have a lot of affection for them. But when the time comes to build a highway between two cities, we are not asking the animals for permission. We just do it because it's important to us. And I think by default, that's the kind of relationship that's going to be between us and AI, which are truly autonomous and operating on their own behalf." And that was in 2019, the year that you interviewed him.
One of the things that I feel like we should take a step back to examine is going back to this idea of what even is artificial intelligence and what do we mean by intelligence.
Right.
And a huge part of the views of the different people in the quotes that you're reading derives from a specific belief that they each have in this question of
For
what
sure.
is intelligence, what
For sure.
constitutes intelligence.
For sure.
For Ilya, he has, throughout his research career, felt that ultimately our brains are giant statistical models.
Okay.
This is not something that, we actually know, but this is his own hypothesis, also the hypothesis of his mentor, Jeffrey Hinton, who also was on this podcast. This is why they have such a strong conviction in the idea of building AI systems that are statistical models, and that this particular approach is going to lead to intelligent systems as we are intelligent. It's a hypothesis that they have.
Sure.
It's not one that has been proven by science.
Sure.
And some people vehemently disagree with them on this particular thing.
Okay.
But if you step into their shoes and take on that hypothesis and assume that it's true,
Mm-hmm.
that our brains are in fact statistical engines, and that these systems that they're building are also statistical engines that they're making bigger and bigger and bigger until they become the size of the human brain, that's why they say that making this comparison where the system will become equal to human intelligence and then maybe exceed human intelligence is relevant in their framework. And Ilya gave a talk at one point at this really prominent AI research conference that happens every year called Neural Information Processing Systems. It's a mouthful. But he gave this keynote where he shows this chart of the size of brains and the intelligence of a species. And it's roughly linear. The bigger the size of the brain, the more intelligent the species. And so for him, he thinks he's building a digital brain because he thinks brains are just statistical engines. So from that logic, it's like, okay, if we then build a bigger statistical engine than the human brain, then based on this chart, it will be more intelligent, and then we will be subjected to the same treatment that we've subjected animals. But it's really important to understand that these are scientific hypotheses of specific individuals within the AI research community. And there's a lot of debate about whether this is in fact the case. And some of the biggest critics say it's very reductive to think of our brains as simply just statistical engines.
Why does it matter to know the mechanism? Is it not just important to know the outcome, which is that it's going to be able to make a video for me, or
Right.
agents are going to be able to do the work that I do? Does it really matter for us to know the mechanism behind it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So it matters because these companies, they are driving their future actions based on this hypothesis. So they have decided, we think that this hypothesis is true, like we should just continue building larger and larger statistical models in the pursuit of artificial general intelligence. And that's then having global consequences. Like in order to continue doing that, they're hoovering up more and more data. They're building more and more data centers. They are having, they're exploiting more and more labor in order to continue on this path. Here's a question.
Uh-oh. Just a minute. I need to put my glasses back on because this light, even though it's on a dim light, it's still, I can still like if I cover my eyes, but I keep my eyes, like if I cover my eyes and I close my eyes, I can still see like the rings behind my eyelids. And so when I go to sleep at night, it's just like, they have blue light filter in them. Listen to what she just said. Listen to what she just said. You have the data centers, and then you have labor exploitation. The data centers and labor exploitations. Just imagine, because at this point, I can't even say at this point, your data centers can't be built off of AI. You will still need humans to build the data centers, to house, control this AI movement. It's so hard to fathom, like, oh, AI is going to take over jobs. AI is going to take over jobs. And it's like, you just have to pivot. You just have to pivot. You're just going to have to pivot. They have the drones starting where they're going to be delivering the groceries. I believe Walmart was supposed to have like a debut. I can't remember. They sent a flyer in the mail, but And I was trying to figure out what that random area was that they was building with that fence in the back of the Walmart. I was trying to figure out what that was, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And I had took my donation back from this organization called the Cloth Option. This is an organization that allows you to borrow cloth diapers and then you just give them back. And so I had met up with her. God, I can't remember her name. Faye. I had met up with Faye, not last week, week before, maybe about 2 Sundays ago. And she was like, "Hey, I'm down here by the drone area." And I was like, "Oh, that's what that." They just gonna drop it. I mean, based off of the commercial. So don't drone them eggs. Don't drone them eggs. Allegedly, I don't know. I was going off the commercial that I saw that had just dropped. I think it was wings or something like that. Just imagine though, you can't even build these data centers without us. So if we ever get to the point, I'm speaking to like, you know, I'll be long gone, but generations back, go back, just, if it becomes an issue, don't build no more data centers. Destroy the data centers. If it gets to the point, you see what I mean? Because we're trying to understand, okay, do we need AI? Is AI beneficial? Oh my goodness, this existential threat, and destroy the data centers. That's the best I could do. Is just destroy the data centers, because what else? What else you want me to say? What else you want me to say?
That
We
I
got
think
to
is
finish
important
getting through the interview.
to ask is, why are we trying to build AI systems that are duplicative of humans? We're kind of having this conversation right now where we've just taken the premise of this industry as a good thing. Like, they said that we should be building AGI, so we say that we should be building AGI. But
Exactly.
I would like to ask, like, why are we doing that?
They said that it was supposed to make life a little bit better, a little bit easier.
Why is it that we are building a technology that is ultimately designed to replace and automate people away? That
I don't know, my love. That's what they said.
is not the enterprise of technology. Like, we should be building technology, and the purpose of technology throughout history has been to improve human flourishing, not to replace people. And so this is like a critical part of my critique of these companies and these scientists that have just adopted this goal and have relentlessly pursued it and have had enormous capital and enormous resources to pursue it. Is this the right goal? Like, why are we doing this? Why can't we just build AI systems that do things like accelerate drug discovery and improve people's healthcare outcomes, which are systems that have nothing to do with the statistical engines that they're trying to build to duplicate the human brain?
So what?
We're gonna extract some data from handwritten documents and scan
Out of all
PDFs,
the
stuff
things
like
that
this.
you guys could be using AI for,
Why are
why
they doing it? I mean, you've interviewed
why
almost
are y'all doing it? Like, what?
what, 300 people in total? 80 or 90 of them from OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. Why do you think they're doing it?
I think it's because they're driven by an imperial agenda, and that is why I call these companies empires of AI.
What do you mean by an imperial agenda? What does that term mean?
Right.
Empire is the only metaphor that I've ever found to fully encapsulate all of the dimensions of what these companies do and the scale that they operate and what motivates them to do what they do. And there are many parallels that you see between what I call the empires of AI and the empires of old. They lay claim to resources that are not their own in the pursuit of training these models. That's the data of individuals, the intellectual property of artists, writers, and creators. They're land grabbing in order to build these supercomputer facilities for training the next.
It's that land grabbing for me. It's that land grabbing for me. Because you talk, yeah, you think that, oh, it's not going to be any more jobs. Jobs? What? You know how dangerous those data centers are? We already went down that rabbit hole. It's something that is. I'm trying to figure out where was we at. Somewhere down south. But like not because I'm in Georgia, so ain't nobody souther than us but Florida. But it could have been Memphis. It was somewhere. Remember that it was an article that Elon Musk had went and he had threw up that data center for I believe he got Grok, don't he? It's something with that those data. It's something that they emit. It's. Let me just let her
Models.
finish.
Second, they exploit an extraordinary amount of labor. They contract hundreds of thousands of workers all around the world, including in the US, to ultimately make these technologies. We can talk about that more. And they also design their tools to be labor automating so that when the technologies are deployed, it also affects labor rights because it erodes away labor rights. And this is a political choice that they have. Third, they monopolize knowledge production, so they project this idea that they're the only ones that really understand how the technology works. And so if the public doesn't like it, it's because they don't actually know enough about this technology. They do this to the public, they do this to policymakers, and they've also captured the majority of the scientists that are working on understanding the limitations and capabilities of AI.
You think they're gaslighting the public?
Absolutely.
They are, yeah. So if most of the climate scientists in the world were bankrolled by fossil fuel companies, do you think we would get an accurate picture of the climate crisis?
No.
And in the same way, they employ and bankroll, the AI industry employs and bankrolls most of the AI researchers in the world. So they set the agenda on AI research in soft ways, simply by funneling money to their priorities,
Right.
so that only certain types of AI research are produced.
Right.
But they also will censor researchers when they do not like what the researcher has found. And so I talk about
Did she talk about Suchir?
case of Dr. Timnit Gebru in my book, who was the ethical AI team co-lead at Google when she was literally hired to critique the types of AI systems that Google was building. She then co-wrote a critical research paper that was showing how large language models specifically were leading to certain types of harmful outcomes. And in an attempt to try and stop this research from being published, Google ended up firing Gebru and then fired her other co-lead, Margaret Mitchell.
Where's
And
her,
so they control
her research?
and quash the research that is inconvenient to the empire's agenda.
Did you have an example where this is happening to journalists as well, that are asking questions of their team members? I think I was watching a video of yours where there was a young man that was saying he had someone show up at his door, knocked on his door and asked for information, emails, text messages, and this person was from one of the big AI companies.
This was OpenAI started subpoenaing some of its critics, yeah.
Has been accused of using legal pressure against nonprofit groups and critics who opposed its move toward a for-profit model and questioned its safety policies. These actions intensified in late 2025 and focused on groups concerned about AI's shift away from its original mission.
As part of what appears to be a campaign of intimidation, but also what appeared to be a campaign of fishing for more information to map out the network of critics further.
Sure.
But this was a man who runs a small watchdog nonprofit, and they had been doing a lot of work during that time to try and ask questions about OpenAI's attempt to convert from a nonprofit to a for-profit.
Okay.
Ultimately, OpenAI was successful in that conversion, but during the period where it was sort of existential for OpenAI to complete this conversion, there were a lot of civil society groups and watchdog groups like Midas who were trying to prevent the process from happening in the dead of night. They were trying to get more transparency. They were trying to have more public debate about this because it's unprecedented. And it was then that there was a knock on his door and he was served papers.
What did the paper say?
Cease
He
and
was asked him to
desist.
reproduce every single piece of communication that he had that might have involved Musk. So this was like this strange paranoia that OpenAI had that Musk was somehow funding these people to block the conversion. None of them were actually funded by Musk. So in this particular case, the request, he simply was just answered, I don't have any documents because this doesn't exist.
So going back to the point of empires, you were saying
Oh.
that one of the factors of an empire is a land grab, and then the next one was
Labor exploitation.
Labor exploitation.
The third one, controlling knowledge
Yeah.
production. And one of the other ones that's really important to understand about the AI empires in particular is empires always have this narrative that they say to the public, like, we're the good empire.
Sure.
And we need to be an empire in the first place because there are also bad empires in the world. And if
I gotta go get me something to eat. Cause I just got finished breastfeeding now, so it's the second trip. I can't just go in there on an empty stomach. Let me let my chair up. I'll be back. Let me go eat something to eat. ahead, my
If you
love.
allow us to take all the resources and use all the labor, then we promise we will bring you progress and modernity for everyone. We will bring you to this utopic state akin to an AI heaven. But if the evil empire does it first, we will descend into a hell.
And
And
the evil empire being in this case.
in this case, most often it's China. But actually, in the early days, OpenAI evoked Google as the evil empire. So all of their decisions are about we need to do it first, because otherwise, Google, this evil corporation that's driven by profit, us as a benevolent nonprofit, like this is a critical contest of who wins.
Do you think the people building these AI companies believe that the outcome is going to be all good?
Mm.
Do you think they think that it's going to serve everyone, it's going to be the age of abundance, everything's going to go well? What do you think they believe? What do you think Sam believes?
So this is so funny, is such a core part of the mythology that they create around the AI industry includes the belief that it could go very badly. It goes hand in hand. Like they need that part of the myth in order to then say, and that's why we need to be in control of the technology, because that's the only way that it's going to go really, really well. And Altman has said publicly, the worst case, lights out for everyone. But best case, we cure cancer, we solve climate change, and there's abundance. And Dario Amodei, same kind of rhetoric. It's like, worst case, catastrophic or existential harm for humanity. Best case, mass human flourishing. So this is like two sides of the same coin. Like they have to use both of these narratives in order to continue
Sell their
justifying an
point.
extremely
Right.
anti-democratic approach to AI development, where there should not be broad participation in developing this technology. They must be the ones controlling it at every step of the way.
Sam Altman did a tweet saying, there are some books coming out about OpenAI and me. We only participated in 2 of them. One by Kesh Hagee, Keech Hagee focused on me, and one by Ashley Vance on OpenAI. He went on to say, no book will get everything right, especially when some people are so intent on twisting things. But these 2 authors are trying to.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
God, Nina just built an app.
Impossible. Written in kid code.
Interesting.
You quote retweeted that tweet from Sam Altman, and you said, the unnamed book, Empire of AI, is mine. Do you believe that tweet from Sam Altman was in reference to your book?
100%, because there's only 3 books coming out about him.
And he caught wind that your book was coming out, and
He knew my book was coming out because I had contacted OpenAI from the very beginning of my process and said, I'm working on a book now, will you participate in it? And actually, initially, they said yes, even though, so my history with OpenAI, I profiled the company for MIT Technology Review. I embedded within the office for 3 days in 2019. My profile comes out in 2020. The leadership are very unhappy. And in my book, I actually quote an email that I received that Sam Altman sent to the company about my profile saying, yeah, this is not great. And from then on, the company's stance to me was, we are not going to participate in anything that you do. We are not going to respond to any questions that you receive. And this was, this was things that they explicitly articulated. It wasn't like me inferring. So I had a colleague at MIT Technology Review that also covered AI. And at one point, OpenAI sent him this press release being like, we'd love for you to cover this story. And he was like, I'm really busy. Will you send it to Karen? And they were like, oh no, we have a history, you understand. And so for 3 years, they refused to talk to me. But then I ended up at the Wall Street Journal, where if they felt a bit compelled, because it was the journal, to reopen the lines of communication.
That's what it is. WSJ, Wall Street Journal. Why I kept saying Washington?
And so
I went blank.
I started having, more dialogue with them. Every time I wrote a piece, I would always send them, here's my request for comment. I would always ask them, like, will you sit for interviews? And we did get to a more productive relationship. And then I embarked on the book, so I left the journal to focus on the book full time. And I told them right away, I'm working on this book. I want to continue this productive conversation where I make sure I reflect OpenAI's perspective in the book. And so they were like, we can arrange interviews for you. You can come back to the office. We'll set up some conversations. And then as we were going back and forth on this, the board fires Sam Altman. And that's when things started going kind of south, because the company started becoming very sensitive to scrutiny. And so then they started kicking the can down the road. And I kept saying, hey, when are we rescheduling this? What's going on? And then I get an email saying, we are not going to participate at all. You are not coming to the office. You're not doing interviews. And I had actually already booked my tickets. So I was already going to fly to San Francisco to have the interviews. And so then I told them, I was like, that's fine. I will still engage in the process where I'll give you extensive requests for comment. As through my reporting, I'll keep you updated on all the things that I'm finding so that you can choose to still comment. I gave them 40 pages of requests for comment, and I gave them over a month to respond to all of that. So this was when the tweet came out, was we were doing all this back and forth, and that's when Altman tweeted this. And they never responded to a single one of the 40 pages.
Sam Altman does a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of interviews all the time. He's done every podcast. I've seen him on everything from Tucker Carlson to I think he's done Theo Von, Joe Rogan, podcasts all over the world. I wonder why he won't do mine.
Right.
Well, maybe.
I don't know why. I don't know. I think I'm there with everyone. I just ask questions I genuinely care about. I don't come in with huge preconceptions. I just meet people for the first time. But I've heard through the grapevine that he doesn't want to do mine.
I mean, going back to what you were saying earlier, that with the way that OpenAI and these companies control research, you asked, do they also do this with journalists? I mean, yes, the answer is yes. And apparently they also do it with anyone who has, a broad mass communications platform. It's not just about the conversation that you're going to have with them. It's about who you also choose to platform.
Right.
And there's this huge problem in technology journalism where companies know that a really big carrot that they can give to technology journalists is access.
Yeah.
And they will withhold that access at the drop of a hat if they catch wind that you're speaking to someone that they didn't want you to speak to.
This is so true, and I don't think the average person really truly understands this.
I do.
So this kind of sounds like theory as you say it, but I'm not going to name names here because I don't think it's important. But there's a particular person in AI whose team have basically dangled the carrot of them coming here for like 18 months. I'm like, you don't have to dangle the carrot. I'm going to speak to whoever I want to, regardless of the carrot or not.
Yeah.
And when this person comes, if they want to come, I'll give them a fair shot. I'll ask them all genuinely curious questions about what they're doing, their incentives. I won't gotcha them. I don't have a history of ever gotchaing anybody. Even if I even if I have a different opinion, I'll ask the question.
Yeah.
But they dangle carrots and they say,
Yes.
well, if he's thinking about it, let's think about a date. And what the strategy is, and I don't think they think most people don't understand, is if we just dangle it for long enough, then they will perform in the way that we want them to do, and they'll be pleasant about us. They won't be critical. They won't.
They won't platform our critics.
Oh.
And I think all of their game is just dangle the carrot forever.
Yes, yeah.
That's like the optimal outcome. Is if we just dangle it, if we just tell them, yeah, no, we're just trying to look at the schedule. It just doesn't work. I think in the modern world, you just have to go there and give your opinion and allow the clash of ideas in the public forum. Let the viewers decide for themselves what they think.
Yeah, but this is such a huge part of their machinery, is the way that they use these tactics to massage the public image of these companies and make sure that information that they don't want out, and even opinions that they don't want out there, go out there. And so this is I feel very lucky now that OpenAI shut the door early on me. At the time, I didn't feel lucky. I felt like I had screwed myself over. I was like, should I have been nicer to them in the profile so that I could maintain access? Which is a horrible question to ask as a journalist, right? Like, you're supposed to report the truth, and you're always supposed to report in the interest of the public. Like, that is the point of journalism. And in that moment, I was like relatively junior in my career. I was like, did I misunderstand what journalism is about? Like, should I have actually been playing the access game? But it was too late. I had the door shut to me. And so I had to build my career understanding that the front door was never going to be open.
Yeah.
And that actually really strengthened my own ability to just tell it like it is. Like, yeah, and just report what I see are the facts being presented to me, irrespective of whether the company likes it or not. And most often the company really does not like it, but I can continue to do the work. They don't need to open the front door for me. I was still able to do more than 300 interviews.
Because there is always an emergency exit, Lord. Always. Always. Especially for those people with disabilities. We always got that handicap parking.
So Sam Altman gets kicked off the OpenAI executive team.
Right.
Did you find out why that happened?
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's a scene-by-scene recounting.
From who?
I can't remember the exact number of sources, so I don't want to misquote myself.
Okay.
But it was around 6 or 7 people that were directly involved or had spoken to people directly involved in the decision-making process.
Scribe makes step-by-step
Who is
guides for
Scribe?
any process with AI. You know what's terrifying at work? When you start a new job and there's no training, none of the
So, Ilya Sutskever
Elias.
is seeing these serious concerns about the way that Altman's behavior is leading to bad research outcomes and poor decision-making at the company. He then approaches a board member, Helen Toner.
Ilya, for anyone that doesn't know, is the co-founder we mentioned earlier, the co-founder of OpenAI we mentioned earlier.
Yes. And he kind of does a bit of a sounding board thing to Helen just because Ilya's freaking out. He's been sitting on these concerns for a while. And he's like, if I tell this to someone, this could also be really bad for me if Altman finds out. And so he asks for a meeting with Toner. And in that first meeting, he's he barely says a thing. He's just dancing around trying to figure out, hey, is this someone that I can maybe trust to divulge more information?
Sure.
And Tona's role and responsibilities at OpenAI were
She was a board member at
just
the
a board
time.
member.
Yeah, and specifically an independent board member.
Where does he read it?
OpenAI, when it was a nonprofit, the board was split between people who had a financial stake in the company, and then people who were fully independent. And this was meant to be a structure that would balance the decision making to be in the benefit of the public interest rather than to be in the benefit of the for-profit entity that OpenAI then created. And Ilya, as a non-independent board member, was approaching Toner as an independent board member to try and see whether or not she was potentially seeing or hearing the same things that he was about the effects that Altman was having on the company. This then sets off a series of conversations, first between Ilya and Helen, and then between Amir Murati and some of the board members. Amir Murati was at that point the chief technology officer of OpenAI, where these two senior leaders, essentially through these conversations and through documentation that they're pulling together, like emails, Slack messages, and so forth, they convey to the independent board members, 3 independent board members, we are very concerned about Altman's leadership. Like, he is creating too much instability at the company, and it is like he is the root of the problem. It's not, they were trying to say to these independent board members, like, the problem will not be fixed unless Altman is removed because of the way that he's pitting teams against each other and creating this environment where people are unable to trust each other anymore, and they're competing rather than collaborating on what's supposed to be this really, really important technology.
When you say instability, that's quite a vague term. That can mean lots of things. Like,
Sure.
instability could mean pushing people hard to work harder. What do you mean by instability? In as specific terms as you can possibly say them.
When ChatGPT came out in the world, OpenAI was wholly unprepared. They didn't think that they were launching a gangbusters product.
Yeah.
They thought they were releasing a research preview that would help them get the data flywheel going, collect a bunch of data from users that would then inform what they thought would be the gangbusters product, which was a chatbot using GPT-4, and ChatGPT was using GPT 3.5. And because of that, there were servers crashing all the time because they had to scale their infrastructure, faster than any company in history. And there were all of these outages. They were trying to also hire faster than any company in history to try and have more personnel there. And they were then sometimes hiring people that they were like, actually, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have hired you. So they were firing people left and right. And people were just disappearing off of Slack. And that's how their colleagues would learn that they were no longer at the company. And so it was, yes, like many fast-growing companies, a very chaotic environment, and a particularly chaotic environment because it was extra fast. Like, they had to accelerate more than any other startup. And on top of that, Amir Murati and Ilya Sutskever felt that Altman was making it worse. Like, he was not actually effectively ameliorating the circumstances of the chaos. He was actually sowing more chaos, getting these teams to be more divided. And this is where it's important to understand that the executives and the independent board members, they're all operating under this idea that they're building AGI, and that AGI could either be devastating or utopic to humanity. And so it's not, yes, it's like any other company, and no, it's not like any other company. You cannot have, like, in their view, you cannot have this degree of chaos as the pressure cooker for creating a technology that they, in their conception, could make or break the world. And so that is basically what the independent board members also begin to reflect on. They have these conversations amongst themselves where they're like, well, based on what we're hearing about Altman's behavior, like, if this was an Instacart, would that warrant firing him? And they concluded, maybe not. But this is not Instacart. And that's why they were like, well, crap, maybe this does rise to the bar where we should consider replacing him, because we are ultimately building a technology that we think could have transformative impacts, either in the positive or negative direction. And so that is what happens. It's like these two executives, and then the independent board members also, they were hearing other feedback as well from their connections within the company, with other people in the industry. At one point, Adam D'Angelo, who is one of the independent board members and the CEO of Quora, which is a tech startup in the Valley, he is at a party in San Francisco, and he starts to hear some of these rumors that there's something weird about the way that OpenAI has structured its OpenAI Startup Fund, which was this fund that the company had created to start investing in other startups. And he realizes they've never really seen documentation about how the startup fund had been set up from Altman. And finally, they get the documents, and it turns out that OpenAI Startup Fund is not OpenAI's startup fund, it's Altman's startup fund. And this was something, like, one of several experiences the independent board members were also having, where they're like, there's something not right about the fact that there continuously are inconsistencies between the way that Altman is portraying what is being done versus what is actually being done. And so when these two executives approach the board, or the independent board members, then they're like, okay, this lines up with also the experiences that we've been having. And at that point, they then have this series of very intense discussions where they're meeting almost every day, talking about should we actually really consider removing Altman? And in the end, they conclude, yes, we should. And if we're going to do it, we need to do it quickly, because they were very concerned that the moment that Altman found out, his persuasive abilities would make it impossible to do. And so they end up firing Altman without telling anyone. You know, they don't talk to any stakeholders to get them on the same page. Microsoft gets a call right before they execute the action saying we're going to fire Altman.
And Microsoft, for anyone that doesn't know, are a lead investor in OpenAI at the time.
Yes, one of the only investors in OpenAI at the time.
Oh.
And that is what then devolves the whole thing, because every single person that is affected by this decision is now extremely angry that they were not involved. And that is what then creates this campaign to bring Altman back, and then Altman is reinstalled as CEO. days later.
This company that I've just invested in is growing like crazy. I won't even
Days
I
later?
think it's going to create such a huge productivity advantage for you. WhisperFlow is an app that you can get on your computer and on your phone, on all your devices, and it allows you to speak to your technology. So instead of me writing out an email, I click one button on my phone and I can just speak the email into existence. And it uses AI to clean up what I was saying. And then when I'm done, I just hit this one button here, and the whole email is written for me. And it's saving me so much time in a day, because Whisper learns how I write. So on WhatsApp, it knows how I am, a little bit more casual. On email, a little bit more professional. And also, there's this really interesting thing they've just done. I can create little phrases to automatically do the work for me. I can just say Jack's LinkedIn, and it copies Jack's LinkedIn profile for me because it knows who Jack is in my life. This is saving me a huge amount of time. This company is growing like absolute crazy. And this is why I invested in business and why they're now a sponsor of this show. And WhisperFlow is frankly becoming the worst kept secret in business, productivity, and entrepreneurship. Check it out now at WhisperFlow, spelled WISPRFLOW.ai/Stephen. It will be a game changer for you.
Okay, Arthur Engel Worthington Schmidt. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You need an app to write an email?
It says
There's a phase a lot of companies hit where they're no longer doing the most important thing, which is selling, and they get really bogged down with admin. And it's often something that creeps up slowly and you don't really notice until it's happened. Slowly, momentum starts to leak out. This happened to us, and our sponsor Pipedrive was a fix I came across 10 years ago. And ever since, my teams across my different companies have continued to use it. Pipedrive is a simple but powerful sales CRM that gives you the visibility on any deals in your pipeline. It also automates a lot of the tedious, repetitive, and time-consuming parts of the sales process, which in turn saves you so many hours every single month, which means you can get back to selling. Making that early decision to switch to Pipedrive was a real game changer, and it's kept the right things front of mind. My favorite feature is Pipedrive's ability to sync your CRM with multiple email inboxes so your entire team can work together from one platform. And we aren't the only ones benefiting. Over 100,000 companies use Pipedrive to grow their business. So if something I've said resonates, head over to pipedrive.com/CEO, where you can get a 30-day free trial, no credit card or payment required. How does a CEO of a major company get fired by the board because board members, there's a quote in your book on page 357 where you say about Ilya saying, I don't think Sam is the guy who should have the finger on the button for AGI. Now, I ask myself this question. You know, I work with lots of people here. We have 150 people that work in this business, and those people know me best. They see me on camera, they see me off camera. So if they said that we don't think Stephen is the right person to host the Diary of a CEO, for example, it would take a lot for them to say that. They must have seen some shit off camera for them to go, we don't think he's the right person to be on camera, or for whatever reason. And in the case of AI, which is much more consequential than a podcast that is, filmed in my kitchen, it almost sends a chill down one's body to think that the co-founder of a business has gone to the board and said, this isn't the guy to be this consequential.
And it wasn't just Ilya. Mira Murati then also said, I don't think Altman is the right guy.
And then they both left later.
So then Altman comes back, and lo and behold, Ilya never comes back. So his concerns about the fact that Altman finding out would be bad for him manifested. He ended up not coming back, and Mira Murati then left shortly thereafter.
Quite a lot of these people leave, don't they? OpenAI.
They do. So if you consider one of the origin stories of OpenAI is this dinner that happened at the Rosewood Hotel, which is a very swanky hotel right in the heart of Silicon Valley, that was one of Elon Musk's favorites whenever he was coming up from LA to the Bay Area. And there was this dinner that was there where Altman was intending to recruit the OG team that would start OpenAI. So he's kind of telling everyone, you might have a chance to meet Musk, because Musk is going to come to this dinner, and he cold emails Ilya and gets Ilya to then come, and Ilya specifically wants to come because he wants to meet Musk. And he also emails all these other people, including Greg Brockman, Dario Amodei.
These are the people that end up working at
And they almost all of them, not every one of them, but almost all of them end up working at OpenAI.
and leaving.
Almost all of them end up leaving, specifically after they clash with Altman.
Right. And Ilya, he left and launched a company called Safe Superintelligence.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's an indirect if I've ever heard one. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? If someone like co-founded this podcast with me and then they left and started a podcast called Safe Podcasting, I'd take that as a slight. I'd have people knocking on their door. Asking for their sex.
One of the things that is happening here is it is not a coincidence that every single tech billionaire has their own AI company. they want to create AI in their own image.
Mm.
And that's why they keep not getting along. And in fact, it's not just don't get along, they end up hating each other after working together and then splinter off into their own organizations. So after Musk leaves, he starts XAI. After
Right.
Dario leaves, he starts Anthropic. After Ilya leaves, he starts Safe Superintelligence. After Mira leaves, she starts Thinking Machines Lab. They want to have control over their own vision of this technology. And the best way that they have derived from their experiences of trying to put their vision into the arena is by creating a competitor and then competing with OpenAI and with all the other companies out there.
Do you think some of these AI CEOs realize that they're quite literally summoning the demon, as Elon said 10 years ago, but they don't really care because being the person that summons the demon makes you consequential and powerful and historical, even if the outcome is potentially horrific, even if there's like a 20% outcome of it being horrific. I remember, I think it was Dario, he's the one that said there's somewhere between a 10% and 25% chance of things going catastrophically wrong on the scale of human civilization. 25% is a 1 in 4 chance. If you put bullets in a 4-chamber revolver and said, Stephen, the upside is you could become a multi-gazillionaire and be remembered forever. The downside is that there'd be a bullet in your head. There is no chance that I would take that bet with a 25% potential chance of things going catastrophically wrong.
So I have a very long answer to this because do they know if they're summoning the demon? It really depends on what we define as summoning the demon. And in this particular case, to go back to what we were saying before, there's a mythology that the AI industry uses where summoning the demon is an integral part of convincing everyone that therefore they can be the only ones that are developing this technology.
I got it. So on one end, you've got to say, if we don't, China will, and that's terrible.
Yeah,
But if we let anyone else do it other than me, then we're fucked as well.
exactly.
So that means that I have to do it, and you have to give me money and support.
Exactly. So when they're saying these things, we should understand it as not as like a genuine prediction based on what they're seeing, because first of all, we don't predict the future, we make it. We should understand this as an act of speech to persuade other people into believing that they should cede more power, more resources to these individuals. And so do they know that they're summoning the demon? I mean, they're purposely trying to create this feeling within the public that they are, because it is a crucial part of their power. But do they, if we were to define just, do they realize that the things that they are doing are having already really harmful impacts all around the world on vulnerable people, vulnerable communities, vulnerable countries? That's where I'm like, maybe yes, maybe no, and they don't really care. Because in the frame of mind, like, I sometimes use the analogy that the AI world is like Dune.
Dune, for anyone that doesn't know Dune.
Science fiction epic written by Frank Herbert, and it's set in this intergalactic era.
We will get you 1 million views or you don't pay. If you give me 15 seconds, I'll explain exactly how this works. First, we build a tailored system.
Era where there are all these houses and they're fighting each other for spice. So it's a callback to colonialism and empire. And they all are trying to control the spice. But one of the features of this story is that there are these myths that are seated on the different planets about a religious myth, basically, about the coming of the Messiah that are used as ways to control the people. And Paul Atreides, when he arrives at the planet Arrakis with the intention of trying to then fight against the Empire and avenge his father's death, he steps into a myth that has been seated on this planet that says that one day there will be a Messiah that comes and saves the planet. So he steps into the role of the Messiah and leans into this idea in order to better control the people and rally them behind him as a leader to help with this quest. He knows that it's a myth in the beginning, but because he lives and breathes and embodies it, it kind of starts to blur in his mind whether this is really a myth or whether he's really the Messiah. And this is what I think happens in the AI world. On one hand, there are all these executives that actively engage in myth making because, I have all these internal documents that I write about in the book where they are very keenly aware of how to bring the public along with them by showing them dazzling demonstrations of the technology, by crafting a mission that will sound really good and make people give more leniency to their companies. So they know they're doing the myth making. And also, I think many of them lose themselves in the myth because they have to live and breathe and embody it day in and day out. And so when, Dario says he thinks that 10 to 25% of the future could be catastrophic, or whatever the probability is, 10 to 25%, he is actively engaging in the myth making, but also he's losing himself in the myth. Like, I think if you were to ask him, do you genuinely believe that? He would be like, yes, I genuinely believe that. Because there's been a blurring of when he's saying something just to say something versus when he actually believes what he's required to believe in order to then continue
to sell
doing the things that he's doing.
And this is the whole psychology of cognitive dissonance, right? Where your brain struggles to hold two
Mm.
conflicting worldviews at the same time. So it's incentivized, or it endeavors to dismiss one. So if you wanted to be a healthy person but also a smoker, and I pointed out smoking's bad for you, the first words out of your mouth are going to be yes, but
Yeah,
smoking
exactly.
helps me with stress.
Yeah.
Yes, but I only do it when. And I think I don't know. I kind of see that at the moment because these companies have to raise extortionate, like huge amounts of money to fund their AI research, and they're building out all of these data centers. So when they're out in the public, they're always fundraising. All of these major companies are fundraising all the time at the moment. So you can't be fundraising and saying, I'm going to destroy your children's future, potentially. There's 25% chance that your children aren't going to have a great life. Which might be the truth.
I mean, that is actually what they say. This is what famously Dario Amodei does. He's
He
like,
does that. But the others, Sam's not doing that as much anymore.
yes, and it's because, it goes back to like each of them kind of distinguish themselves a little bit as the brand that they need to project.
Do you think any of them are have a stronger moral compass than others? Because I think Dario often gets the credit for having more of a backbone and being more conscious of implications.
He does get a lot of credit for that.
He's from Claude and Anthropic, for anyone that doesn't know.
I don't think it truly matters, the answer to that question, because to me, even if you were to swap all the CEOs for someone that people would say is better at running these companies, it doesn't fix the problem that I identify in the book, which is that there is a system of power that has been constructed where these companies and the people running these companies get to make decisions that affect billions of people's lives around the world, and those billions of people do not get any say in how it goes.
Those people, they can go to the polls, right? So if the public are sufficiently educated, they can go to the polls and pick a leader that says they're going to legislate or pass laws or try and pass laws.
Yes, but at the speed and pace at which these companies operate, and at the sheer scale and size, they're able to also spend extraordinary amounts of money, hundreds of millions in this upcoming midterms, to try and kill every possible piece of legislation that gets in their way, and to craft legislation that would codify their advantage. And so, to me, I think sometimes as a society, we obsess a little bit with, are these leaders good or bad people? And
She know her shit. No, I gotta give it to Karen. She own it. I'm talking about, listen, her rebuttals. And I love the fact that it's just factually based. She doesn't get like too emotional. I love how she's just so poised. And I appreciate how, she's so calm and so professional, like, but she's also deeply in control of her emotions, to whereas she's just on it. I love it.
to me, the bigger question is the governance structure that we've created
Let me
a
see how
sound
much
one,
time.
or
Okay.
that allows broad participation, or an anti-democratic one that has consolidated this decision-making power in the hands of the few? Because no person is perfect. I don't care who is at the top of these companies. They're not going to have the ability to make decisions on behalf of so many people around the world who live and talk and have a culture and history that are fundamentally different from them without things going wrong. And so that is why throughout history we've moved from empires to democracy. It's because empire as a structure is inherently unsound. It does not actually maximize the chances of most people in the world being able to live dignified lives.
I'm going to try and take on their point of view. So this is me playing devil's advocate. Okay. But Karen, if the US don't continue to accelerate their research with AI, at some point, China's model is going to become so smart and intelligent that we're basically going to have to rent it off them, and we're going to be, they'll get the scientific discoveries, they'll discover the new era of autonomous weapons, and we will be their backyard. And like logically, that argument does appear to be pretty true.
No,
That
it's not.
if we scale up, if we just imagine any rate of change with this intelligence, at some point, we're going to come to a weapon that could theoretically disable all of the United States electricity, their weapons systems. It would know exactly how to disable the United States from a cyber perspective because it would be that smart. All you've got to imagine is any rate of improvement of any sort of a long period of time. So this is a theory that might be true. And if it's true...
I mean, yeah, any theory might be true.
but again, going to the point of like, even if it's a small percentage, it's worth paying attention to on the other side of the foot. This is a theory that people talk about. It could be the case that the most intelligent civilization is going to be the superior civilization. Logically, that's a pretty sound thing to say, no?
So there's a lot of fundamentals in this argument that would need to be true in order for this to be a viable argument, and let's knock them down one by one. So the first one is that these systems are intelligent, and that just scaling them is going to bring us more intelligence.
So far, so true?
No, it's actually not, because first of all, again, we don't actually know if these systems are like intelligence is not, it's not like the right analogy almost. It's sort of like it's like, is a calculator can do math problems faster than a human. Does that make it intelligent?
Yeah.
Welcome to the next evolution of AI, built right into the AlterX platform. Now, you can bring the...
It has a narrow intelligence because it's solving a narrow problem, which is like 1 + 1 = 2. But
And these systems, they actually also are quite narrowly intelligent in the sense that even though these companies say that they're everything machines that can do anything for anyone, they actually can only do some things for some people. This is like the jagged frontier of these AI models. Like some of the capabilities are quite good, other capabilities are not that good. You know why that happens? Is because the company can only focus on advancing certain types of capabilities. It can't literally focus on advancing all types of capabilities. They have to actually set their mind to advancing a certain, by gathering the data that's needed for that capability, by taking, getting a bunch of human contractors to annotate and train the model to do that exact thing. And so scaling these models is actually a perpendicular question to, are we actually getting more cyber capabilities specifically and more military capabilities specifically?
I would argue that most of the top people in AI believe that the intelligence is going to continue to scale for some time. A lot of them do, like Geoffrey Hinton does.
And again, it's back to his hypothesis about how human intelligence works and what the appropriate model of the brain is. His hypothesis throughout his career has been the brain is a statistical engine. But that's his hypothesis, and that is not universally agreed upon, especially among people that are not in the AI world. When you talk with neuroscientists and psychologists, people who actually study human intelligence and the human brain, that is where you start to get a lot of debate and disagreement about this particular view that Hinton has. And so this is kind of like one of the things is like AI is already being used in the military and has been used in the military for a long time, but it's specifically accelerating large language models isn't just the only path for getting military capabilities. Like the companies would have to choose to specifically pick military capabilities to accelerate, not just like general intelligence. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they create this myth that they are actually pushing the frontier of all of the capabilities of the model, but that's not what's actually happening internally.
Right.
And I had hundreds of pages of documents on like how they were specifically training models. They pick what capabilities they want to advance. And you know how they pick them? It's based on which industries would be able to pay them the most money for their services.
Ooh.
So they pick finance, law, medicine, healthcare, commerce. It's not actually intelligent like a baby, where the more that the baby grows up, they start having these general abilities.
I think I have dragon intelligence. I'm honest. I wasn't going to say it, but I think I know a little bit about. I know a lot about a little bit.
Yeah, but you also have the capability to learn and acquire knowledge by yourself, and you also have the ability to choose what you're going to learn and acquire by yourself.
It's not easy, and it takes a lot more time than these models, it seems. Less compute, but
And you can learn how to drive in one place and then immediately know how to drive in another place. These models cannot do that. Every time a self-driving car is shifted to another location, it has to completely retrain on that location. So like all the self-driving cars, I mean, we're sitting in Austin right now, and there's all these self-driving cars that are driving through Austin.
but when one of them learns, they all learn, which is
It's just because it's an operating system that has an AI model as part of it, and you're training the AI model, and then you deploy that AI model across all the self-driving
which is a
cars.
big advantage, because if one Optimus robot learns one thing in one factory, we all learn it. And imagine if humans, if we all learned what all the other humans learned, that would give us such an unbelievable competitive advantage. I mean, one of the ways we did that is through
Or it
communication.
could not, because they could be learning the wrong thing, which has also happened again and again with these technologies, is that all of them then learn the wrong thing, and they all have the same failure mode. I mean, part of the resilience of human society is that we do have different expertises, and we also have different failure modes.
I think sometimes we hold AI models to a higher standard than we hold humans to. And in a way, because I hear on stage, we're in Austin at the moment, and I'd hear people go, but, them AI models, they hallucinate sometimes. I'm like, have you met a human? Like, I hallucinate all the time. I can barely spell or do math. So,
Yes, but it's once again like using this analogy that was specifically picked in the early days of the field as a way to market these technologies. Like we're repeatedly using the intelligence analogy and relating these machines to human intelligence as a way to try and gauge whether or not it is good or worthy or capable in society.
I think the output is the thing that really matters, is the most consequential, which is like, okay, it might have a different brain, a different system, but does it arrive at the same capability? Like, is it able to do surgery on someone's brain? Is it able to drive a car? Like, my car drives itself in Los Angeles. I don't touch the steering wheel, and I can drive for many, many hours. And here in Austin, I just saw the ones the other day where they've removed the steering wheel and the pedals, the new cybercabs. So I go, it doesn't really matter if it's using a different system. If it's navigating through the world as a car, it has a better safety record than human beings. Then, as far as I'm concerned, intelligence or not, it's like,
Yes, but that was not the original argument that you made, which was like, these systems are just generally going to become more intelligent across different things based on the prediction. This is a prediction that you're making, right? Like that. And this is a prediction that all of the AI...
Ilya's making, Dario's making, Elon's making, Zuckerberg's making, Altman's making, Dennis is making.
And do you know what the common feature of all of them is? They profit enormously off of this myth.
Elon has recently spearheaded the construction of Colossus, a massive supercomputer in Memphis housing 100,000 GPUs specifically to scale up their Grok API models faster than their competitors. It appears that they've all converged around this idea that you can brute force your way to greater, more generalized intelligence.
They've converged around the idea that you can brute force your way into models that they can sell to people for automating certain tasks that are financially lucrative.
And I heard Elon say that if you're a surgeon now, there's just no point. He was like, don't train to be a surgeon. He says, in a couple of years' time, Optimus and AI generally are going to be better than any surgeon that's ever lived.
Yeah,
Do you think these things are true?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was Hinton that famously / infamously said there would be no need for radiologists anymore. There would be no need for radiologists anymore he said a deadline that we've already passed. I don't remember how many years. Radiology is doing great as a profession.
Do you think it will be in 5 years?
Okay, so this once again goes back to this question of like, why do we build technology and why should we specifically be building AI? Okay, and for me, like the whole project of technology development advancement is not to advance technology for technology's sake. It's to help people. And there's been lots of research that has shown that actually the best outcomes for people in a healthcare setting is for the radiologist to have the AI model in their hands and for the human expert to use the AI model as a tool, as an input into their judgment. And it is that combination that leads to the most accurate and early diagnoses of certain types of cancer that then help improve the prognosis of the patient.
Do you believe that in the coming years, pretty much all the cars on the road will be driving themselves?
No.
You don't think so? How come?
Because of the way the technology works.
Scale your marketing with Base 44 Supreme. No setup time. It was born ready.
Because these are statistical, currently the way that AI models are primarily developed, they're statistical engines. You have what's called a neural network, which is a piece of software that has a bunch of densely connected nodes and
Parameters. That's what they call parameters.
yeah, pretty much. And you're just pumping a bunch of data into it, and then it's analyzing the data and creating finding all these correlations in the data, finding all these patterns. And then it's through those patterns that the machine is then able to act autonomously, right? And so the way that they're training a self-driving car is they're recording all this footage, and then they have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of human contractors that draw literally around every single vehicle in the footage, every single pedestrian, every single traffic light, every single lane marking, and label it exactly as such, so that then it's fed into an AI model that can identify all of these different components, and then it's connected to another piece of software that is not AI, that's saying, okay, if the AI model recognizes a pedestrian, we do not run over the pedestrian. If the AI model recognizes a red traffic light, we stop. And so the thing about statistical engines is that it's based on probabilities. It's not based on deterministic logic. So systems make errors all the time, and it's impossible. It is technically impossible to get them to stop making errors.
Humans make errors way more than systems in this case.
Yeah.
Like the safety record is isn't it like 10 times more safe to be driven in a Tesla with autonomous driving than it is for a human to drive?
It depends
a
on the
mile?
place. It depends on whether the Tesla was trained to specifically navigate the place that you're
Humans
driving.
get drunk.
Because if it's in Mumbai, in someplace in Vietnam, no, it would not be safer. I would much rather be driven by someone that has been driving in that place their whole life. I'm not arguing against the fact that in certain places where the car has been explicitly trained to drive in this place, that it has a better safety record than the humans that are driving in that place. But you specifically asked if I think that all of the most cars in the world, in the US,
let's say the United States, because we're here.
I don't actually think that it's imminently on the horizon.
10 years?
No, I don't think so.
I sat with Dara from Uber. He's pretty convinced that his 9 million couriers will be replaced by autonomous vehicles.
How long has self-driving cars been invested in so far? It's been more than 10 years. And what percentage of cars right now are autonomous on the US roads? So part of it is actually not a technical problem, right? Part of it is also a social problem. Do people even trust getting into these vehicles? Part of it's also a legal problem, which is if the self-driving car kills someone, which it has happened.
Yeah, it has happened.
Who is responsible?
So in the case in LA, it was both Tesla and the driver, because the driver dropped their phone, they looked down, and this was a couple of years ago, I believe, and they went to grab their phone and they hit someone. And so it went to court, and they were held both responsible, both the driver and Tesla. In terms of Tesla, pretty much everyone that gets the car, it comes with autonomy now for pretty much most people, I believe.
Partial autonomy.
Yeah, it's called full self-driving at the moment. Where it's
yes, it is called full self-driving.
Full self-driving is supervised, where you kind of have to be looking in the right direction, but
yeah, so it's partial autonomy.
and here in Austin is full autonomy because there's no steering wheel.
Yeah.
On the new car, so you can't drive it anyway. But it is, the Model Y is the undisputed highest-selling car, best-selling car in the world across all brands. I guess my point here is these predictions where they say AI is going to completely change transportation and driving. It's going to completely change. Lawyers aren't going to have jobs. Accountants aren't going to have jobs.
No, steering wheel is crazy.
Believe that they are true. Do you believe that there's going to be mass job displacement?
Okay, so I do think that there is going to be huge impacts on employment, and we're already seeing those impacts.
For sure.
It is not simply because the AI models are just automating those jobs away. It is specifically because the models are improving in certain capabilities based on what the companies that are developing them choose to improve them on.
Right.
And executives at other companies are then deciding to fire or lay off their workers because they think that AI can replace the worker, irrespective of whether that might be true. And there have been cases of like the Klarna CEO who laid off a bunch of people thinking they would replace everyone with AI, and then it didn't actually work, and he had to ask some people to come back.
I actually DM'd him about this. If you're hearing this, this is because I've DM'd Sebastian and he's fine with me sharing this. He said, because I've heard his name mentioned a lot, and so when we talked about AI in the past and people mentioned Sebastian and Klarna as the example, I wanted to clarify with him what the truth was. He said, it's great to hear from you. I think sometimes people struggle with two things can be true at the same time. I think it might be time to come back on your podcast. To your point, this is the media misinterpreting my tweet. We are doubling down on AI more than ever. Klarna is shrinking with almost 100 employees per month due to AI. We used to be 7,400 at the peak. A year ago, 5,500. Now, we're 3,300. And by the end of summer, so this was last year, we'll be 3,000 people. AI handles 70% of our customer service conversations at this moment. This is because we have realized that with AI, the production cost of software comes down to almost zero. Just like manufacturing used to be all handcrafted, and then the machines came, code used to be all handcrafted up until a few years ago, and now it is machine produced. And ultimately, we pay people more than ever for the unique handcrafted, man-made stuff. Klarna is a bank. People will want to connect to humans, not only machines. They want us to be personable, relatable, even flawed. So we need to make sure, while we are automating, replacing with AI in parallel, we make sure we offer a super available human experience.
I'm really glad you read this because I think it touches on some really important nuances to the AI, like the impact that AI is going to have on employment. So I think there's often these binary narratives. It's like AI is going to come for every job, or people say AI is not actually working and it's not actually coming for jobs. And like the reality is it's coming for jobs. There are definitely jobs that are being automated away because of the capabilities of their models, and there's also jobs that are being lost because executives are deciding to lay off the workers, even if the models don't match the capabilities because it's good enough. Like they would rather have the good enough model for way cheaper.
Or they made a mistake with hiring, they blew up their team, and it's a great convenient thing to say.
Exactly. Like there's many reasons, but like clearly we're already seeing impacts on the job market. Like the U.S. jobs report that came out earlier this year showed that there has been a decline in hiring, is a slowdown in hiring across especially white-collar professional industries.
And you saw Anthropic's report, didn't you, this week? The TLDR is, it matches kind of what you were saying, where Anthropic looked at exactly how people were using their models, and they looked at like what people are saying, and they said that there's been a 40% reduction in entry-level jobs in particular. And then they made this graph, which has gone viral over the internet. The red shows where we are now in terms of capability, and based on how people are currently using the models, that's their prediction. Extrapolate out. The blue part will be the disrupted parts. This is the things that they say AI can do right now, but people don't realize it yet. So if you look at it, it's like it's all the stuff you'd expect. It's the physical, real-world human stuff, which robots maybe can do someday, like construction or agriculture that are untouched, but like office and admin, saying finance stuff, math.
And you notice that these are all the things that I just named, that they purposely finance, math, law,
media and arts, that's me codes. So
office and admin, I mean, they do focus a lot on like assistant type.
Right now, as you watch this, your brain is being hijacked. You think you're in control.
We're getting very close. I mean,
and managerial work. So, but the other thing that the Klarna CEO said was, but people also want human experiences. So it's not actually just about the capabilities of the models. It's also about what people want. Like some things they would turn to AI for, and some things they wouldn't, irrespective of whether or not AI is capable of doing it. But because of a preference that they want human-to-human interaction. And so...
But you know what? I'm going to probably have to go ahead and kind of pause, only because I was already streaming before this. Remember, we did a loyalty test and we watched Candace. So we can put a plug on it. It's okay. YouTube will let me know where I left off, and we'll just pick back up tomorrow after Candace. So we'll at least have something to watch afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it on up because, you know, I do have to clean up my area. Shut everything down, you know, and then of course make sure I get adequate rest. But in the meantime, in between time, okay, I love you, bye again.